Good morning, everybody. So, Eva, do we allow for like a greater capacity of participants to show up, or shall we just go ahead now and you'll just keep the door open?
Keep the door open. This group, people often arrive late. And so this is normal, Thomas.
Thank you.
Yeah, even when Trudy is here, no one comes here on time.
Thank you for thank you for that, Eva. Yeah. And I don't have a problem. I can just go ahead and begin. And my name's Thomas Davis. I'm one of the InsightLA teachers. I formerly was holding the InsightLA BIPOC Sangha for about 3 years, and up until last Christmas Eve. Some of you here may have frequented that particular sitting group, and if not, I've probably encountered you at other places prior to the pandemic. So I'm just arriving here with you. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time teaching Trudy's grand and illustrious group. And so I'm adjusting to your presence and to this moment, with you. I did want to just share as we begin to acclimate to what we intended to do in coming here today, is that what we are coming from and what we may still be very much involved in are some pretty tremendous world events, things that are happening in our country, things that are happening across the globe, things that are happening from the forces of nature and storms and rain. And, there's just this collective type of experience that we could call grief. And, grief doesn't come with a sign. It's not like one of those real estate, advertisements where somebody's in a costume saying, hey, this is grief and this is happening at 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen that way. At least for me, it doesn't. And it's oftentimes a very covert and subtle, indiscriminate and obscure type of state of mind that doesn't really reveal itself. But we're feeling it all the time, and it shows up. And it can cause us to act out in certain kind of ways that we're not aware of. So I said all that to say that it is human to grieve. And as much as we want to practice and to become adept with loving kindness and metta and compassion and joy and equanimity and all of these other types of virtues that we want to be aligned with, I want to also encourage you to learn how to make space for grief. I've encountered or experienced probably in the last 6 to 9 months, probably at least 5, if not 7 different people that I've had some degree of relations with that have transitioned, even as close as maybe the past 2 or 3 weeks. One of my longtime and good friends who was a pastor of a church and a husband and a father. He wasn't even 50 years old, but he passed away due to some medical non-COVID complications. And, and I haven't been able to find my tears. I haven't been able to grieve. I've been able to feel, but I'm just kind of trying to articulate to you the intensity of the time, because it just seems like there's one thing after another, and it's just that it just seems like life is just asking us to keep marching. And in a sense, we do have to keep moving and marching, but there also needs to be a time when we can learn, what does grieving look like for us? How can we allow for ourselves to allow the drought to end? And when I say the drought, I mean the tears that seems to evade us. There was when I was younger and I used to be an associate minister in the church, there was an old preacher who said that tears is God's kind of built-in pressure relief valve. And when you allow the tears to come, it's like opening the valve and pressure is released, like psh. So it's just a natural way of being that is really healthy for us. So I just want to encourage you to just to be sensitive, to be kind to yourselves, but to also know when that time comes, that it's okay. It may feel like you're losing some sense of normalcy or control, but it's okay to cry and to allow yourself, to allow your body to rejuvenate itself through the release of the grief that you don't even know that you're holding. So I hope that you, this is an interesting way to start off a sunny Sunday morning, but I hope that you will find your pressure release valve. I hope that you will find your tears so that you can recover and find some sense of normalcy. And I wanted just to start off with that. And part of the reason why we started with that is because we're going into a period of practice where we will be exposing ourselves and allowing ourselves to feel what is here at this time, how we are in this time. So my methodology of mindfulness practice, I begin with what I call preparing to practice preparation. And I'm certain that there are many experienced practitioners here, and you have a specific method and the way that you kind of come into alignment. And I'm not asking you not to do that, but what I would like to offer some instructions that if you are open to following them, if they feel adaptable to you, please do. And if not, please just, follow your own sense of direction that leads to your own alignment. But I would like to just introduce, first of all, just allowing yourselves just to notice, where is energy most prominent in your body at this time? Where does there seem to be a buildup of some kind of energy? Or emotion, or a mood? And we want to begin this way just so that we can kind of take an account of our current state in a way that deals with the intangibles, the energy that we're carrying. And this is a very gentle and delicate observation. And let's take a deep breath on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And inhale deeply. And release. And again, we're just noticing where energy is most prominent within our systems at this time. Noticing the subtle changes that are taking place inside of the body. I'm going to invite you now to shift your awareness from the upper body and to maybe bring it specifically into the area below the waist, which is where our sit bones, the thighs, the knees and the shins and calves, even down to the feet. And see if you can just center your energy in the lower half of your body for a moment. And to continue to just to see what signs of life are presenting themselves in the lower half of your body. If you'd like to descend down further to the very soles of your feet, whether they're making contact with an object or not, and just see if you can notice any sort of quality of energy, movement, sensations that are happening in the area of the feet, from the soles of the feet to the top of the feet and the toes themselves. And however you are in this moment, you can just observe that. You can do that with your eyes closed or open. Signs of life, signs of vitality. And we're going to begin an ascent up from the feet to the very top of the knees. And we're just going to center our observation in between the ankles and the knees just for a moment. Again, looking for signs of life, vitality, impulses, endorphins. See if you can just see how the body is working for you. And as you observe the sensations from the knees down, let's take another deep breath together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and inhale. And release. And from the knees, we're going to ascend upward all the way up to the hips and the lower waist. And we're just going to center observation in between the knees and the lower waist for a few moments. Again, signs of life, vitality, impulses. You may encounter wholesome states and light energies as you do this observation. A sense of being grounded and centered, or you may encounter the opposite, but just allow it to be an observation of what's unfolding in this moment. We're going to move from the thighs and the lower back, and we're going to begin an ascent up the spinal column, moving slowly and methodically like a spider crawling up a trunk of a tree. And just allow yourself to follow the path of your own vertebra slowly, just giving some intention to this part of the body that supports us in so many ways. Fanning out left to right across the ribs, on the back, and coming back to center, just slowly observing the quality of your experience in the back area. Signs of life, vitality, strength, or maybe discomfort for some. But just slowly allow yourself to come up to the shoulders and then to descend again back down to the lower small of the back and the spine. Signs of life, impulses, microclimates and temperatures. And we're going to make a final ascent all the way up to the shoulders. And when you've reached the shoulders, just pause for a moment. And as you take this pause, is there a sense, a different quality of experience that you're having now than you did several moments ago when we first began? To those who this is accessible for, I would encourage you just to maybe slowly, very slowly and methodically, just slowly rotate your neck in a circular fashion, if you'd like to do that. Just to stretch out the tendons in the neck muscles. Nothing exaggerated or drastic. And if you want to rotate in the opposite direction, please do so, or whatever feels right for you. And we're doing this mindfully with the intent of noticing how the body responds to these adjustments. And when you feel satisfied with that movement, you can just bring yourself back to center. And we'll take another deep breath on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and inhale. And release. And are you able to notice how the body responds to the exhalation of the element of air that you've brought in? There's a subtle sense that you can feel into of rejuvenation, even micro rejuvenation. We're just caring for ourselves and paying attention in a different way for a few moments. Beginning at the base of the neck, on the back of the neck, we're going to make another ascent up the back of the cranium or the back of the skull. Again, like the spider crawling up a trunk of a tree. And we're going to slowly just crawl up the back of the skull, noticing the feeling tones that we encounter as we do so. And our destination will be the hairline right at the beginning of the forehead, but slowly just allow yourself and give yourself time to get there, noticing signs of life, vitality, energy, impulses. Just crawling very slowly and just giving yourself a different kind of attention that you may notice the body responds to in a somatic type of way. And if you've reached the destination of the forehead or the hairline, just pause there. And as you pause, notice the quality of your embodied experience from the soles of your feet all the way up the legs in every place that we've traveled thus far. And just see if you can observe the quality of your experience in this moment. How does your body feel in this time? And from the forehead, we're going to descend down over the facial area, coming over the eyebrows and the eyelids very slowly. Over the cheeks and the nose, the lips and the chin, and we're going to rest right here at our collarbone. And at the collarbone, we're just going to pause and feel the influx of oxygen coming in, passing through our esophagus. And just feel into the quality of respiration that we are having in this moment. Catching up with ourselves. And this exercise in its entirety is just preparation for meditation. From the collarbone, just noticing the flow of respiration and how this is for you. We're going to begin at the collarbone to make a descent down into the chest, breast, or heart area, if you will. Slowly crawling down like the spider again, right into the center of our upper body. And just encompassing everything from left to right, back to the center, in maybe a circular fashion. Just noticing the quality of our heart center. Or whatever is calling your attention. For some who are a little more adept at this type of observation, you may experience endorphins or restorative impulses that the body is sending out to rejuvenate and restore itself across the whole expanse of the body itself. This is a possibility. And if you're so inclined to maybe take one or two of your hands and to place them on your heart center at this time. See if you can allow that hand to make a definite impression by feeling the very tips of your fingers make an impression on this part of your body. And just to see if you can explore and feel, what does this gesture mean for you? There's no phrases to recite. There's just the feeling of what does it mean? What is this hand trying to say? Am I receiving some sense of support from myself? Or am I closing myself off from it? Is this different? And as you hold this posture, just align with the flow of respiration in its natural pace. And just allow yourself to feel human. Just feeling your humanity. And if you're able to allow that same hand to go a little lower into your upper abdomen, allowing it to drop from your heart to your abdomen, or to place one hand on your heart and one on your abdomen. Just allowing the oxygen that comes in to fill your belly a little more than normal. And in doing so, it releases some of the tension that the solar plexus is holding. Which is the area where we hold a lot of unresolved tension, grief, and trauma. And just allowing that part of the belly just to expand and to gently contract. Expand and contract. And do this in a way that really feels right for you, like it's actually accomplishing or doing something. And if you're inclined to continue holding these gestures, that's fine. Or if you just want to follow your heart into a more familiar form of practice for the next few moments, that's fine too. But just allow yourself to be in your present moment without judgment, without criticism, and without critiquing yourself. In closing, I'd like to offer one final suggestion or an invitation. This is a practice of gratitude when there really appears to be nothing to be grateful for. Appears to be. But this practice of gratitude is specifically designed to see how the body responds in spite of the conditions that we face. So within using your own internal voice, I want to challenge you to utter the word thank you. With your internal voice, and to see how that resonates, to see if the body gives you any sign of response to thank you. And if you find that it's opening something, say thank you again. Thank you. This is not about a who or about a condition or a circumstance, but it's simply the principle of gratitude and seeing if and how the body responds to it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just as you are, we will take another breath, a deep and fulfilling breath on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and inhale deeply. And exhale with thank you. Thank you. And in the absence of a literal bell, I'm going to just invite you to come back to the collective practice without any specific curiosity, but just to stay in your experience consciously and collectively. Thank you. Gratitude has a way of diluting the bitter herbs of life in a mysterious kind of way. Wherever those herbs come from. But gratitude has a way of just diluting it. It doesn't take them all the way away, but it dilutes them. And it helps us find ourselves, to find who we really are, can be expressed through gratitude. So I want to thank you for your practice, and I thank you for your time and attention. You've been very generous in that regard, and I want to just say thank you for allowing my voice to be the guiding voice for you in this portion of our time together. I think it's fitting if we maybe take a break for a couple of, maybe 5 minutes. I think we went over our meditation time, Eva, but nobody's throwing pans at me, so I think we're okay. So yeah, let's take a break for 5 minutes and come back at 11:50, and we'll proceed. Well, welcome back, everyone, and those who are arriving. So for those of you who know me, I'm deeply invested in finding, what is most resonant, particularly in our collective settings like this. And ideally, I would love to hear from each one of you about, what brings you here, what's going on in your life and stuff like that. But just the restraints of time won't allow that for today, but maybe at some other forum in the future. So I've been in the process of curating a story that I wanted to offer here. And I find that within the story itself, there are some principles that have been mirrored. Actually, when I say curating, I'm talking about the dynamic of processing our direct living experience, including the questions that have been answered and the ones that haven't, the ones that we're still living with. But all of these elements have a redeeming quality to offer some sense of light or inspiration or understanding when shared with other people at what I hope will be the appropriate time to share this with you today. So the story that's still in the curation process that I'm going to share with you is called A Tale of Two Healers. Is anybody here in a healing modality or vocation? Does anybody want to be in a healing modality or vocation? Great. Thank you. So this may find this relevant. So this particular just series of events that I'm going to share with you is a tale of two healers. And this I'll let you use your own imagination around this. This isn't from any specific period or time or anything like that, but I think it might help if you could imagine like a village setting, maybe an indigenous village setting. That might be appropriate for you to kind of like put the pieces of the story together. But the first healer, I'll call him healer number one. Healer number one was part of this community, he grew up in this community. And he discovered his gift within the community. And his gift of healing primarily and predominantly was emerging to show up through his words. He was known to be eloquent and articulate and fluid and flexible, and he had a way of communicating what was appropriate and true and even possible to people in a given moment. And so he was imbued with wisdom and insight as a young man. And he was still in the process of learning how this all works out. Where is it coming from? What is my source of this gift that is somehow bringing me a lot of attention, which I don't mind in and of itself, but it's just like having certain capabilities that you still quite haven't figured out. And so his healing happened through his words, and mixed with his imagination, those words also were shared as poems and sometimes song. And he was given, known to be graceful and eloquent and insightful and intuitive and resonant and relevant and poetic and even melodic. And the people held him in the highest regard, as we've said. But what they didn't know was that this healer, this young man, was often discouraged by his own inherent and secret struggles with the emerging responsibility of being identified as a healer and an up-and-coming community leader. He struggled specifically with believing he himself could do it consistently. And the underpinning effect of not believing in himself enough led him to experiencing what we may know as feeling like an imposter, a fake, a phony, a perpetrator. And so on one hand, he has this very fluid and valuable gift of expression that has a real impact in people's life who feel disconnected and disjointed with themselves. He is becoming a resource to undo that experience. And he's also very much in a struggle about, am I supposed to be doing this anyway? So this whole dynamic about not believing in himself and this whole struggle that he had going on, the fame and the allure of the people didn't exactly solve the issue, the internal struggle that he was having. And so this compounded his shame. And as a result of his inherent private struggles with this, he would act out. And his acting out could show up as the exact opposite of him being graceful and eloquent and relevant and insightful and poetic and melodic. His acting out would show up as him being harsh and cynical and sarcastic. And he would allow this at certain times, taking risks just to really share some of his own unprocessed other sides of his eloquence. And he did this with the intent of distancing himself and disqualifying himself from the heavy responsibility, or what he interpreted as a heavy responsibility, of being a healer and a leader. So it seemed the best way for him to deal with the discomfort of his growth was to sabotage his growth and to sabotage his reputation, his growing reputation. And this led to all sorts of crazy discomfort. And it's interesting because the people, 1 week or 1 month, they're going to him and he's offering sweet waters of wisdom and meaning, and he's just helping them in so many profound ways. And then they'd see him acting out with the harsh and the cynical and the cynicism and the sarcasm. And they'd be like, wow, you know, what happened? And he kind of was really looking at that as a benefit to his acting out. He's like, hey, it's actually working. People won't come and ask me to do stuff. So the sabotaging had its benefit for a while. So as this whole cycle of events continued to happen with healer number one, this young man, he would periodically just leave the community because it got too much for him. And he would take refuge and go for long periods of time to live in the wilderness, just to kind of try to sort things out. Sometimes finding what he was looking for, sometimes not. And then he would return. But on this one instance that he went out, he didn't come back. He was gone for more than a few weeks, and he was gone for almost like 3 months. And this is where healer number two comes in. Healer number two was an elder in that community, and he'd seen this young man come up. He was there in proximity of this young man when his gift was emerging, when he was discovering that he had this gift. Healer number two, being an elder in the community and a healer in the community, he was known to be a gentle man, a wise man, a sympathetic man. But one of his most signifying characteristics was that he was a silent man. He wasn't known for talking. People had gone for years without ever hearing him speak a single word. And so they learned how to relate to him differently than how they related to the young man or to most people within the community. This second healer, this older gentleman, was deeply attuned with nature and the laws of nature themselves. He acquired the ability over his years of practice and cultivating wisdom and exposure to the elements of life, where he was able to understand the secret languages of animals. He understood the secret language of birds. He understood the secret language of plant life. And he understood and was fluid in the language, the secret language of water itself. So on the human side, he wasn't very fluent, but when it came to his adaptation to the laws of nature, he was very fluent. Now, what's interesting is that his method of healing was primarily to simply bear witness. And when people came to him with a specific need, just as I'm leaning into this camera, and appearingly to just stare off into space or to look right through you, creating a sense of being gently disturbed, the healer would bear witness in this form. And he would just bear witness to the person as they went through their fits of discomfort and kind of being freaked out until they allowed their bodily reactions and sensations to subside, which is what he was there for. And when that subsided, he could see them and they could see him. And his bearing witness to not just you, but to all of your yous is what this healer was looking for. And he bore witness. And so as he continued to follow his instincts, to find this young man who had been in the wilderness and away from the community far too long, he set out into the wilderness, and being so adept with nature, he could see and discover certain pathways that the young man could take. And he stumbled upon one, and he actually saw some fresh footprints. And when he came upon the footprints, the elder healer got down on his hands and knees and put his finger within the indentation of the footprint that was left on this fresh soil. And he could take an inhale, like, and literally be able to kind of pick up a sense of the emotional weight that this young man was carrying. He was able to even take in a hint of the sodium that was within the soil as a result of this young man's tears hitting the ground as he was veritably making his own trail of tears, trying to figure out why he kept sabotaging himself. And so the healer began to just follow this path. And the young man continued on his path. And so the young man comes to this place where he's tired. And he's actually kind of exhausted from his running. And in reflection of what he had experienced all the way up to this point and what he was trying to figure out, he began to weave together some words that would help him to make sense, to give him an account of everything he had experienced at that point. And he said these words. He said, I was tired at the foot of the hill, looking up past the brown grass dome into the gray sky. Where I stood, the river spoke and reached. I knelt down to drink and saw under my wrists small fish, blinking eyelids of light. Standing again, I bent with the shape of the hill where no trees grew and rocks leaned from pale grass. It was then that the hidden bird sang. Its voice was like two grass spears rubbing. Its voice was more troubled than a raven's. Its voice was like a red arrow breaking like lightning over an abyss. This voice was like music that came into my body. Standing again with the river, with one hand on the river, while with the other hand, I was reaching towards the dome of the hill. I began to sing my own song of lament. In the sense of grief because I had separated myself from the community. From the broken voice in the grass, witnessing the limited vision of fish, the seasons of my life, the ashes of summer, and the shadows that fall and seem to remain upon my face. And when the young man had finished these words, he found himself in the presence of the elder healer. He was literally standing in the shadow of the elder healer. These were the shadows that fell upon him, and the elder healer was just bearing witness. The young man, the young healer then began to, knowing this elder healer doesn't speak normally, he asked them a question. He said, healer, how can I do this work? How can I believe in myself enough to do this work? And the healer again went into his posture of bearing witness. And he broke silence. And he told the young man, this work is bigger than yourself. Don't believe in yourself. Believe in the work itself. And take the steps that the work is asking of you. And the shadows fell. And the man was returned back to the community with a better understanding of how he could hold himself and allowing himself to be properly used for the work that was bigger than him. Don't believe in yourself. Believe in the work that you are called to do. So this was my current state of curation with this story. I thank you for your generous time and attention in allowing me to endeavor to not be in the way, but to share some of my work with you. So thank you. I appreciate you. So I believe I'd be personally interested in just seeing if people have any comments or reflections that you can share in chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and share directly, that's fine. I don't know all the house rules here, but I can go either way.
I happen to be recording today, and I only have like 6 small squares of you. So if you have questions, if you could use the raise hand function, then your square will come up to the front page. That would be very helpful to find you. And also, I will keep my eye out in the chat box if you prefer that way. Thank you. Okay, a couple of people spotted leads wanting to speak.
Yeah, I see you, Liz. I see you. You can unmute yourself.
Well, Thomas, hello.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. This was a miracle, Thomas. I'm starting to teach mindfulness. And I taught my first class last Thursday. I was terrified. It was the hardest thing. I say it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And yet it was incredibly easy. You will understand that. And I made myself sick for weeks, literally ill. And I decided that I had to teach about the body this week. I wasn't really ready. And I was going to spend all day today listening to talks. about how to teach the body. I don't know, Thomas. I believe in miracles. I'm beginning to believe. And what can I say? Thank you. And for the story, the whole thing. I had actually, the miracle was I had stopped thinking I wasn't able to do it because I'm so connected to the work. And this was a blessing. And you understand what I'm saying. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. And good luck with your teaching experience.
Thank you so much. Great to see you again.
Good to see you, Liz. Gabby has raised a hand. Who's first?
Yeah, go ahead, Gabby.
Okay, okay, just unmute it. It's like, you feel like you suffocate when you can't unmute. So weird. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the practice this morning. I think in general, like, it was really nice to connect to my body, which I do once in a while, like a little exercise in the morning, but it's nice to have someone facilitate it. And going from like section to section of my body, that was nice, going by sections. And I think, I travel many parts of the world, but I always say my most favorite part to travel to is my body. Like, I think it's the one place we travel the least. And it was like a nice journey to travel like part by part. And I always say, like, our body is, for me, it's like a temple. It's a temple. It's a very sacred temple. And to be in touch with it and be with it, because everything you said makes sense, because there's so many difficulties. And I guess like, I love your sentence, like, it's not about you, it's not about you, it's the purpose that you have here in life, your life journey. As difficult, complicated it may be, coming back to my body helps to release that tension, because there's tension. There's a lot of tension, like this morning I spent cleaning like back in the day, I didn't have to clean up my clutter in my emails, and I just had to clean my room, and now I feel like I have more cleaning to do than I used to do. Back in the day, there was no emails and all that stuff, and you clean up your junk folders and all that crap, and it's like, oh my God, it's awful. And I'm like, delete it all. Just go away. But your body feels that tension. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I haven't cleaned up my emails. And it's just awful, to have that. And I really want to be in a place where I don't have to do that much cleaning. Eventually, one day, I'll just get rid of all my accounts. But right now I can't, because I need them for work and all that stuff. But one day I will delete them all. Except you guys. Except this. So thank you for the practice, because it just very much needed to clean up the clutter.
And Gabby, clutter cleanup is a continuous process, just like there are temple keepers. They are there for a reason. Temples need maintenance, so I'm just so glad that you were here, that we got a chance to hear, like, how this time has supported you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Sarah, I believe Sarah is next. Am I?
Yes, I just had to finally, get unmuted. Yeah, I just had to make notes from when you were doing the story, and so that's the part I'm mostly and some of the body too, especially, it's like an aphorism. How am I seeing especially when you said that gratitude doesn't take all the hurt away, but it dilutes it. That really got to my heart big time. And that who you really are can be expressed in gratitude. Yep, I needed that one. I put that on my wall. And also the self-sabotage. I could really totally relate to the self-sabotage. And then it's like, you saved me when you said, don't believe in yourself, believe in the work. Because you were saying to me, get your ego out of the way. It isn't about your ego. It isn't about what's going to happen. It isn't about how people are going to view you. It isn't about all the fears that are ego-based. So that was, and I almost didn't come to, I almost didn't come, but I was just pulled here. So thank you for bringing some messages that were really important for me.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm glad that it was communicated in a way that was meaningful. Thank you so much.
There is a message sent by Charles in the chat. I'm not sure if this is a question. Charles, would you like to speak on camera if you
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not a question. I tried to type it fast and I sort of screwed it up, but I think it's a wonderful story and it was very meaningful to me because I'm guilty, as most people are, of focusing on my shortcomings, of which I have many, rather than my abilities, of which I have some. And fortunately, I've been able to accomplish things with my abilities, but not without constant self-criticism and those feelings of, you think you're a fraud, you're getting away with it. But I think most people have those feelings at one time or another. The story is wonderful to actually explain it to you that this is a common problem and you need to focus on the test. I have wanted to be a writer for years and years and years. I've dabbled and dabbled, but I've never really done it. And this is one of the reasons. And now I can say, just write the damn book and stop thinking, and stop thinking you're a crappy author. You're not going to be able to read such wonderful, marvelous books. I could never do something like that. So what? Just write your book, and that's the takeaway. And I think it's a great story. It really is. And by the way, Thomas, you're an outstanding storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm feeling my own self-sabotage come up as you say that.
But it's the truth. For some people who are too antsy, ADD, whatever, you think it's too slow, but the way you deliver it is so effective and it has such an impact, and you have the ability to pause and really put your story in a meaningful way, put it over. It's just wonderful. You're great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And good luck with your book writing.
Thank you. And I intend to do it. And this was a big help, but it applies to many other areas of life as well. If we can just more focus on the job and maybe we're doing a great job, if we're not, why not, and fix that. But it's not all about us, right? It really isn't. So go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charles.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have time for at least one other person who would like to share your experience. Shari. Shari?
Yes, hi.
Hey.
Thomas, thank you very much. This experience has been just so rich and full, and I'm going to be continuing to process it throughout the day, and I'm sure even longer. And I find like two main things for me are about what you talked about is to not separate myself from community, which has been harder and harder the last couple of years. But also the part about believing in the work and just knowing that the power of listening to people that I work with who have so much suffering, and sometimes it's difficult to bear listening, let alone what they are experiencing. But it gives me just extra courage and validation for that role. And thank you.
Thank you, Shari. Thank you. Thank you.
So Thomas, Candace is asking where she could find you, and I put your website, Avant Dharma. Is there any other place where it's good place to check out where you'd be teaching?
Yeah, you could also find me at Trader Joe's a few times a week, just so you know.
Which one?
But yeah, you can definitely connect with me on at Avant Dharma, and that's my own website, and that's the my platform that allows me to do this type of curation. Although I have gone through multiple years of formal Dharma training, I have to find out how I'm going to express it. So this is what you've experienced today. Yeah. My website isn't annoying yet. I mean, I'm not like sending like 3 or 4 emails a week or nothing like that. It's pretty quiet. So if you subscribe, I'd be happy to have you as a subscriber, and you might see something from me like once a month or something like that. But I'm kind of wrapping up events as our pandemic status narrows. But I haven't been doing much with that outside of Zoom for the past couple of years. And you can still find me at Trader Joe's if you don't, subscribe. So.
Which one?
That's the secret. Westwood, mainly. Westwood area. So, Nikte, thank you, Thomas. Beautiful, powerful, and on point. Thank you especially for the reminder to make space for grief. Yes. Thank you, Nikte. Thank you so much.